three fossil fuels, natural gas, coal, and petroleum. Their use rates are not that dissimilar in terms of absolute amounts. What's really important is that these fossil fuels, three of them taken together, provide the energy input for about 84% of the energy used by our human society. That is a really large amount on an absolute scale as well as on a relative scale. So one of the problems we have is that the use of fossil fuels is so intimately integrated in everything we do in our society. This creates a very serious dilemma for us as we try to step back from our increase of CO2 and increase in global warming, because it's so embedded. It's very, very difficult. We need to do two things. One is we need to today reduce the emissions from all these sources, all the fossil fuels. That reduces the scope and size of the problem. And secondarily, then we need to find, for the longer term, solutions so that we can replace these fossil fuels with something that's truly renewable and carbon neutral. Well, carbon offsets are a way to address this first part of the solution that I just mentioned, and that is dealing with the today. We got a big problem and it's getting bigger. Carbon offsets are an effective tool for helping us reduce the size of that problem by, as a society, emitting less CO2 by offsetting our current use with some other way in which we save it or replace the remove the CO2 from the atmosphere. So offsets really address the today part. Controlled carbon has a new approach that also begins to address the second stage, and that is to find solutions for the future. And we need to find replacements. And so part of the controlled carbon approach is to make investments of some of the offset resources into finding solutions that will give us new sources of renewable energy so we can stop using so much fossil fuel. Well, funding grants for future solutions are essential, because we really have to replace our use of fossil fuels with alternatives that are truly renewable. In the Center for Environmental Biotechnology, where I am the director, one of our main research focuses is to find ways to use microorganisms to provide large amounts of renewable energy. It's this energy that will replace fossil fuels. We can use existing sources of energy that are now considered pollution problems, wastewaters from humans, from animals, from industry. We can also use photosynthetic microorganisms to capture the sunlight energy and CO2 and make what I call new biomass and new energy out of that. All of this is renewable. All of this can go a long way towards replacing our society's dependence on fossil fuels. How are vehicles and fossil fuels contributing to carbon emissions? The vehicles contribute about 25% of the emissions of fossil carbon to the atmosphere. And so it's a very significant part of the problem of global climate change. And global climate change is a really big problem because we are putting a lot of extra CO2 in the atmosphere. It's causing temperature rise, and it causes a large amount of changes in weather conditions, agriculture, maybe health effects as well. Carbon emissions affect the environment in two ways. One is a very direct way, and that is it increases what we call greenhouse gases. Carbon dioxide, the product of combustion of fuels, is a gas, gets emitted to the atmosphere. It's what we call a greenhouse gas. Greenhouse gas absorbs the energy that the Earth is radiating back to space. And since the atmosphere absorbs it, it doesn't radiate back as fast and gets held in. And the whole temperature of the Earth gradually is rising. And this is very well documented, and actually the rise rate of CO2 and temperature is rather striking. Now, the longer term secondary effects are that we're going to see big changes in climate. It's called climate change, and so the experts tell us that we're going to see a lot more extreme weather events, hurricanes, for example. We're going to see more drought, or in some cases a lot more rain. So the unevenness of precipitation is going to be accentuated, and then there will also be rising ocean levels and decreasing levels of lakes. So that'll have a big impact on agriculture as well as how humans live in reaction or together with these important water resources.